I don't think he understood why you cared so much about your family.
That's because you felt cones eat your own.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and these are all the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in The Penguin, Episode 5. So we're right at the midpoint of the series, man, and the alliances are shifting. This episode's theme was all about family, and it put all of the clashing families out on full display, showing the importance, or lack thereof, of these relationships during this rising gang war. Hey, but before I forget, I did want to let you guys know we're going on tour. We're coming to several cities with our live show, and we are so excited to see you guys in person. We have a lot of fun activities planned, and we cannot wait to hear from you all during the live Q&A. Our first show will be on November 14th in Boston. The link and the other city dates are down in that description below, as well as the link to join our Discord. We hope to see you guys there. So the episode opens right after Vic and Oz's escape following the Maroney's ambush in episode 3. Once again, we're under an overpass showing us the dark and gritty underworld of Gotham. We see the damage on Oz's car from Vic's rescue as Oz recounts the tale he told Alberto.
I ever tell you about Rex Calabrese?
Now remember, Oz started his journey on this show waxing poetic about Calabrese and how he wishes to be revered in the way Rex was.
Can you imagine to be remembered like that?
Oz wants to emulate Rex, and by telling Vic about this, he is trusting him with his dream. He told Alberto, who laughed at him, but he trusts Vic to respect his ambitions. So as they're burning Oz's car, Oz tells Vic more about his childhood hero, mentioning how his car
Was a chariot.
riding in on a chariot can signify a lot of things, but with Rex's notorious reputation, this metaphor is a symbol of power. Kings, warriors, and even the Greek god Apollo are oftentimes portrayed riding in on their chariots. This imagery not only commands respect, but it is also a display of power. Oz told Alberto and Vic about how Rex could make
A kid with a bum leg, feel like even he could be king.
and this is why Oz reveres Rex. So as we've seen in previous episodes, Oz is quick to brush off his disability. But then Rex Calabrese, a man who was paraded through the streets, made him feel not only welcome, but powerful, which is life-changing for someone like Oz. Oz wants to be respected like Rex, and he's telling Victor because he's trying to be the same kind of role model for Vic as Rex was for him. He wants Vic to see him the way he saw Rex, and Oz sees himself in Victor. So with that comparison in mind, Oz burning his car, his chariot, symbolizes a new era. Rex riding in on his chariot showed us his power and respect, while Oz in his burning chariot evokes the same power and respect, but with two outcomes: absolute destruction or ascendance to another level. Oz is at a crossroads. I don't know about you guys, but I get really anxious about these things and how they're going to pan out. And when I'm anxious, I do bad things like bite my lips. So I needed something to help me forget those bad oral fixation habits and replace them with a positive one. That's why I started using Fume. They're the sponsor of this video.
Hold on now, person. Is that a vape?
It's not a vape and it's not electronic, and it doesn't have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors to create natural flavored air. You see, the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking. Fume contains no nicotine, it is not addictive, and it contains non-toxic flavors. Instead, it contains plant-based flavors like spearmint ice, cinnamon hearts, and my current favorite, crisp mint.
Oh, that's why your breath has been smelling so nice lately.
Yeah, with flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation habits through a passive diffusion system that does not use electronics, vapor, or combustion. But mostly I like that it still gives me something to reach for when I feel anxious, and it even has movable parts for fidgeting that make an incredibly satisfying sound. Fume has served over 300,000 customers like myself, and you can be their next success story. For a limited time, use my code ScreenCrush to get your free topper. It's the perfect accessory for your Fume device. Slip it onto your mouthpiece for a softer, warmer feel. It's chewable for those who love to fidget, and it's reusable. So head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use the code ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to get your free Fume topper when you order your journey pack today. Now, back to the Penguin. So when Vic asks about their betrayal of Sophia, Oz brushes him off, saying that the chick...
She won't matter.
Now, while we know just how untrue this is, it really just proves how right Sophia was last episode, telling Oz,
You have a so at least you're eligible for a promotion.
Even after he's seen how capable Sophia is of ruining lives, he still has the gall to cast her aside simply for being a woman. Now, Oz and Vic have this great moment here where they open up to one another about the importance of loyalty.
Put your ass on the line for me. 100 Maseratis couldn't replace that.
This shot shows us how they are mirrors of one another. Vic sees himself in Oz just as much as Oz sees himself in Vic. And while Oz values Vic's loyalty overall, it does make me question where Vic's character is going. If the two are complete mirrors of one another and Vic is Oz's driver, who's to say Vic won't betray him like Oz did Sophia? The framing of this shot is also brilliant storytelling. Vic and Oz are under the awning, out from the rain and out of the flames. They're on the cusp of being in too deep. The fire, which they set, is away from them. They are clear of destruction they've caused. It's raining heavily, but isn't extinguishing the flame, symbolizing that nothing can stop what they've already put in motion. So when Oz whipped out TikTok, I actually laughed out loud. I know we had a live streamer Riddler in the Batman, but something about the Penguin having a TikTok is especially funny. And it makes you wonder what his For You page looks like. I'm assuming a lot of ScreenCrush videos. Check us out, TikTok. So the post he pulls up is from Taj Maroney, Sal's son. Take a look at his username, View from the Taj, what I assume to be a play on his own name, Taj, with the actual Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal, of course, being a monument of love and is a symbol of beauty and perfection. And the saying View from the Taj could metaphorically mean seeing life through a perspective of love and appreciation. So Penguin calls Taj a
Huge blind spot just begging to be exploited.
This line shows how the Penguin, the Maronis, and the Falcones all have contrasting livelihoods. The theme of this episode is family.
There's always room for family.
Specifically what it means to be a family during a gang war. Taj and Sophia are both heir to their family's money and notoriety, but they are behaving as opposites. Sophia doesn't let the notion of family hold her back from slaughtering everyone, while Taj is standing up for his family. So while the Falcones may hold a lot of pride for their family name, the Maronis prove that their enemies are phonies. So Oz threatens Taj with a gun and Taj goes full Draco Malfoy on him.
My mother, my father, they won't stand for me.
My father will hear about this.
So later Oz shows them a classic kidnap victim photo with the Daily Paper as proof of life. And their reactions show the stark difference between these two families. The Falcones say that they're all about family, but they are quick to backstab each other. Carmine threw Sophia in jail for a decade because she questioned his judgment. When leaving Blackgate, Oz sees the news about the Falcones, and man, could he have not been more wrong earlier.
But you won't matter.
He knows now that Sophia might be out of the way, but the hangman is only getting started. Once again showing us that Sophia was not originally the hangman, but them accusing her and framing her to be the hangman is actually what created the hangman with her time in Arkham. Now, notice how Sophia is not hiding behind chokers or scarves anymore. We mentioned that last episode as well. Her scars are now exposed for the world to see. She is embracing her inner hangman. She has become the very thing her father wanted her to be. In the last episode, Sophia only spared Gia and Johnny. Johnny was only spared for personal gain, while Gia was spared because she's an innocent child. So now Gia is out of the house and taken to a child services home where she's safe from the family. This shows us that, yeah, Sophia may be a vicious killer, but she knows what it's like for a little girl in the family and she wants to spare Gia from the same suffering. It also shows us that while Sophia might be going kind of crazy, she does have somewhat of a moral barometer and isn't looking to kill anyone that she views as innocent, such as an innocent child. She is simply set on revenge against those who made her into this monster. So the officer that speaks with Sophia is Chief Mackenzie Bach from The Batman. In that film, he was opposed to Batman as a vigilante, but it wasn't confirmed that Bach was on Falcone's payroll. His comic counterpart makes me feel like we can actually trust Bach. This show takes a lot of inspiration from the great comic No Man's Land.
She said it's like a no man's land now or something.
The comic follows a fractured Gotham after it suffers a massive earthquake, and through the thick of it, Bach backs Jim Gordon in every choice he makes to put Gotham back together. He's one of the few good cops left in the city. So Bach refers to her as Miss Falcone, which Sophia is quick to correct.
Please, I prefer Sophia.
She is completely divorcing herself from the family name, like she said last episode.
So tomorrow I'm starting a new life.
So when Sophia takes off Johnny's gag, he says, calling back to what Carmine told Sophia the night she was catered off to Arkham.
You're confused. Sick.
In both scenes, Sophia's autonomy is at play. When she confronted Carmine, she was standing up for herself and questioning her father's morality. Here, she is finally taking her life into her own hands. Anytime she's tried to fight for herself, men have labeled her as sick. So back to Oz. He is storing Taj in his girlfriend Eve's apartment. When Eve confronts him for placing herself and her girls at risk, he pulls his classic argument.
And then it's you and me on top of the world.
Last week we talked about how Oz claims to act like everything he does is for us. Working with Sophia was for us. Betraying Sophia was for us. He finds a way to spin everything he does into a gift for others. Like putting Eve in danger is so she can live a happy life at the top. You'll also notice that Eve's living room light is an umbrella, a little nod to the classic penguin accessory. This shot between Oz and Eve is also framed really well. It's the first time that Eve and Oz are actually on different sides. Oz crossed the line. He put her girls right in Sophia's crosshairs, and Eve is furious, so she literally puts a barrier between herself and Oz. So back with Sophia in a final plea for his life, we see Johnny tell Sophia,
"You need me now, Sophia."
mirroring Oz's initial plea to her in episode 2.
I owe you.
Sophia was quick to call out Oz for assuming what she needs, something that everyone keeps doing to her, but she can see that Johnny will actually be useful. In that episode, she called Oz her little helper, which is exactly what she plans to use Johnny for. For so long, Sophia has been the one being used, and now she's flipping the script. So when Vic arrives to look after Oz's mom, the 1980 crime thriller Gloria is playing on TV. The film follows a former gangster's girlfriend as she protects a young kid from the mob. Now, aside from the general mob vibes, this movie does show a lot in common with The Penguin. Both showcase a tough, morally ambiguous character taking care of a younger kid. And thematically, Gloria underlines the theme of this episode and the thin line between friend and foe in a gangster world. Think about how much alliances have shifted in just 5 episodes. We went from Oz and the Falcones to Oz and the Maronis to Oz and Sophia to Oz and no one. And the same goes for Sophia with Johnny Vitti. And guys, this scene is heartbreaking. We already knew Oz's mom had dementia or some type of memory issues, but the reality of her sickness in this scene is truly upsetting. Within Vic's walk from the bathroom to the kitchen, there are at least 13 post-it notes, with a mix of reminders like buy coffee or what her favorite radio station is, but also more simple reminders like where her cups are. The stove is on, the fridge is wide open, providing further proof that she's not all there, and echoing back to what her landlord said earlier in the season.
Yo creo que va a necesitar ayuda permanente.
Now, when Vic enters her room, we see do the dishes on a note by the door. She's clearly just writing down whatever she manages to remember throughout her day. And later, when she leaves her room, we see lock door on another note. This is a once capable and headstrong woman grasping for any of her past personality and strength. She wants a better life for herself, but regardless of where she moves to, penthouse or suburbs, Frances is slipping away minute by minute. And if it couldn't get sadder, she asks Vic,
You remember this?
she thinks he's one of her sons. And man, did Deirdre O'Connell steal this episode. When she snaps out of her episode and goes right back into joking with Vic, you can see the real Frances Cobb shining through, especially when Vic starts talking business. She is attentive and knowledgeable, pointing out how
he's working them to get at the Falcones. They're the bigger fish.
So Frances knows the happenings of the crime world in Gotham. She's aware of the Maronis and the Falcones feud. And we see that this is a brilliant woman who is bogged down by a life-ruining disease. When Frances asks about Oz, Vic lies and says that Oz killed all of the Falcones because he knows that's what she wants to hear and probably what Oz would like him to tell her. We've seen that she holds Oz to a very high standard.
This city is meant to be yours, sweetheart.
And we know that Vic understands the pressures of pleasing your parents, as we saw in episode 3.
My dad would be ashamed of me.
And so he embellishes for Oz. Now, at Blackgate Penitentiary, we see Sal's shrine to his family with a photo of him and Nadia front and center. Once again showing us that the Maronis are actually family-oriented as opposed to the Falcones. Sal, though a crime boss and a brutal gangster, will always put his family first. Now, this is the guard that Oz gave a stack of money to kill Sal. He says,
This is from Oz, mother.
and I think this will be Oz's fatal mistake. He always wants it to be known that he is behind these betrayals. Like Oz told Alberto, his role model had a parade thrown in his honor, and that is exactly what Oz wants. He wants the world to know what he is capable of, even if that leads to his own downfall. After a classic shootout, Oz flicks on his lighter and sets Nadia and Taj ablaze, literally burning all of the evidence of that night outside the Apex with Sophia. The car and the Maronis are all burnt to ashes, erasing everything that is in Oz's way to power. Like the Phoenix that Doug mentioned earlier, he is literally emerging from the ashes to stake his claim. And we have another brilliant framing moment here. Sophia said that with these mushrooms they would paint the town red, a double entendre for both the drugs and the blood that would be spilling into the streets of Gotham. Sophia may have sparked the beginning of this battle, but Oz has just lit the fire to this all-out drug war. Now, the song playing here during their escape is by The Police, and the nonsensical title is actually the whole point of the song, showing how absolute nonsense and blabber can easily get people to listen. It's about how words can be easily used to manipulate people. And we see that here in every aspect of the show and the Batman universe at large. We saw it with the Riddler and corrupt politicians, with Sophia, and we see it constantly with Oz. So as they drive away, we see an old Don Mitchell Jr. poster from his campaign with a Riddler insignia spray painted over it, showing even though the Riddler is in Arkham, he devastated the city and his mark still leaves a shadow over Gotham. So in a way, even though Riddler is locked away, he still kind of won. And then of course we see another Stop Drops billboard here showing the absolute hypocrisy of the Gotham elite. Mitchell and his fellow upperclassmen all use the drug at 44 below. And then if Oz's luck couldn't get any worse, the mushrooms, save for 2 buckets, are ruined from the fire extinguisher. But that's not all. Sal Maroni is back on the playing field.
There's no place I can't find you now.
As Oz panics and calls Vic, we can see more missing persons posters blurred out in the background. It's almost a metaphor for the current state of Gotham. The people actually affected by the Riddler's attack are left to fade into the background, while the manipulative power grabbers like Oz crawl their way into the spotlight. Once again, Oz abuses his power over Vic during this call.
She's Vic, how is she?
2 episodes ago, Oz called out the waiter for interrupting Vic.
The man was speaking. Let him finish.
And later that episode, he did the same thing.
Jesus, kid!
Oz started off this episode by commending Vic for his loyalty and putting them on equal footing.
It's you and me now, kid. Till the end.
Only to tear it all away once again when he feels threatened. At the Falcone mansion, Sophia is in her mother's room. Her entire hangman trauma stems from that night in this room when she found her mother hanging. She relived this night every night while she was in Arkham. Everything hangman that has happened to her happened within the confines of these walls. This whole episode is about ending eras and starting something new. Sophia is reclaiming not only herself, but the room that haunted her from her youth. And then it's revealed that her mother's maiden name is Gigante, which is Sophia's married name in the comics. So Sophia is killing it as the Dawn of the family. No wonder Carmine wanted her to replace him in the first place. She opens the meeting by admitting,
I gassed the family.
with Julian watching on in pride. And this is a major 180 from the Arkham flashback with Sophia screaming her innocence.
I told you I'm innocent.
The score here echoes back to the Batman's theme.
Expendable.
Sophia is not the hero that the Falcones need, but she is the one they deserve. Last episode, Carmine's theme was a slower version of the Penguins.
But I know that I know that.
Showing how Oz is the new flashier version of Carmine Falcone. And guys, the writing in Sophia's monologue is amazing.
I am a gigante.
In the comics, her snap was from Gigante to Hangman, all because of the death of her father. And they've reversed that to show her turn from Hangman to Gigante in spite of her father, the actual Hangman.
Yeah, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And I guess Sole Survivor, apart from Gia, Johnny Vitti, could really only last for so long, and it seems only fitting that he is the first to die in this new family. I mean, he even admitted earlier,
"The second I do what you want, you kill me."
And plus, he was the first to die in Batman The Long Halloween, a comic we've referenced several times throughout our breakdowns of this series. So now I want to take a second to talk about all of this happening at the table. So their war room coincides with their dining room, and as the saying goes,
You don't what we eat.
so a little over 24 hours earlier, the whole Falcone family was sitting down for a meal, and now there is literal blood and money all over the table. The dinner table is normally a symbol for home, stability, and family, but now it's been tainted with blood, literally and metaphorically. Sophia has now erased everything that represented family within the Falcones and has successfully started anew as a Gigante. And this shot is just wow. It perfectly represents the show's theme and social commentary. Sophia, the dawn of the most prolific crime family, standing front and center while the lower underlings of Gotham reach for actual bloodstained money, while her hands stay clean. So Vic is taking Francis to Crown Point, and you can see why Roxy dubbed it a no man's land. They are still beat up from the flood at the hands of the Riddler. Once again, a reminder that while the Riddler claimed to want to take on the upper class and the elites, what he did really hurt the impoverished. Anyway, we see random planks of wood, rolled up carpet, and grime everywhere. You can even see the water line from where the flood came up to the buildings. Cars are flipped on top of one another, a whole power line is down on the ground. This area of the city has received no help since the flood. It's a stark contrast to the pristine ground of the Falcone's mansion we just saw seconds ago. Here we can see a real change and a We Are Gotham poster solidifying the dichotomy between the city's response to the crisis and to the town itself. Those posters are trying to promote belief in change, while the people are surrounded by constant reminders of the disaster that was forced upon them. And this whole scene really emphasizes the connection to the comic crossover No Man's Land. In the comic, following the earthquake, the people of Gotham were cut off from the rest of the world. Isolated, they did anything they could to survive. Hunting, gathering, bartering, fighting. And we see that here. Someone is crouched down by a fire trying to stay warm. Others are using a shopping cart to pick up any goods they can find. For instance, this is Squid, the small town mobster from the comics and who we saw in episode 3. He's stealing whatever he and his crew can find in the wreckage of Crown Point. This, again, is much like the No Man's Land comic, with different gangs and rogues claiming different areas of Gotham following the disaster. And remember, we saw No Man's Land slightly adapted in the film The Dark Knight Rises. And hey, fun little thing we noticed about Squid, he has squid tentacles tattooed on his hands. Now Vic is taking Francis to his old friend Calvin's apartment to keep her safe, and don't worry, they don't have to worry about Calvin showing up anytime soon because, well... Now, Vic and Mrs. Cobb don't want to be anywhere near here. Vic has his trauma from the night the Riddler attacked his hometown, and Frances clearly has some trauma from her time living in Crown Point. She says to Vic that the city,
it takes everything from you.
Mirroring what Sophia said to Julian last episode.
I'm not the one who's sick. The world is.
Now, whatever side of the drug war you're on, everyone knows the true enemy of the people is Gotham City itself. There are so many systematic issues: the prison system, class disparity, mental health services. Everything in Gotham is just bad. And all of this helps you understand the criminality of these people in The Penguin, The Batman, and even Elseworld movies like The Joker. And hey, speaking of The Joker, we have some awesome Joker merch up for sale right now at ScreenCrushMerch.com. We have the Live with Murray Franklin blood splatter merch, from when The Joker did this.
Get what you deserve!
We have the I Have a Condition shirt inspired from the card in the first movie. That card's on the front, and then we got laughter on the back. And finally, we've got the Sad Clown Monday shirt. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support the channel. We love designing these shirts for you guys. Thank you so much for your support. So when Oz goes to get Eve, he has another one of his little temper tantrums.
It ain't f***ing watching no more! Huh?
Oz values loyalty above all else, praising Victor in the beginning.
You came back, Vic.
And now that Eve doesn't want to uproot her life because of his mistake, he feels like she's turning against him. Oz wants to be the king that Rex was, and losing one follower feels like the beginning of the end for him. And then we see Sal sitting at his dining room table and crying over a picture of Nadia. Now, compare that to the actual blood that Sophia split on her dining room table. And we can see the true differences between the two families. Instead of immediately trying to get back at Oz like Sophia would have, he instead is grieving the loss of his family. This also shows us the stark difference between Salvatore Maroni and Carmine Falcone. So Sophia's confrontation with Sal is perfect. She respects Sal's sentimentality for his family and even admires him for it.
Your family had it right, I think.
Something that Carmine was never able to understand. Now, at the end of the day, Carmine Falcone was the foil to the Falcone family, like Sophia said.
The Falcones don't exist anymore.
That name and the empire died with Carmine. Now Sophia forming an alliance between the Gigantes and the Maronis, it's a big deal. She's not just dancing on her father's grave anymore, she is building her own empire on top of it. So when Oz comes to Crown Point to check in on Vic and his mom, he immediately apologizes to Francis.
Sorry, Ma. I feel like I let you down.
Now, like we said, this episode is all about family.
Family.
The bond between family members, the strength it gives you, and in Oz's case, the guilt he feels about his mother. He knows he's the only person left in that family that can take care of her, and it crushed him to bring her back to the one place on Earth that she doesn't want to be. Now, the only time we ever really see a true, genuine side to Oz is with his mother. The way that he talks to her is like a little child trying to make up for getting in trouble. He's even cuddling her and holding her arm like a toddler who's in need of comfort. Everything Oz does is in hope for some type of validation or love, and we see that stems from right here with him and Francis. Francis calls Oz,
My boy, with such big dreams.
because that's not only what she sees him as, but what he is. Miss Cobb sees Oz as her baby, but now she feels like that's all it is, just dreams. Oz is never going to amount to the lifestyle that he's promised his mother, and her disappointment in him will further his path toward destruction, as he'll go scorched earth on Gotham to please her. Now, Francis also mentions,
Like your father.
and I'm tossing out a theory here, but I think Rex is actually Oz's dad. The choice to use the movie Gloria in this episode was very telling. In that movie, the lead woman is the ex-girlfriend of a mobster using her knowledge to protect a child. We see that Francis knows about the mobster life. That's compounded with Oz's admiration for the gangster. So it would make sense if Oz was his child trying to forever live up to Rex's legacy. This also has backing with its comic connections. As we know, in the Batman verse, Selena Kyle is the daughter of Carmine Falcone, which is taken from the comic The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. In the mainstream continuity, however, Selena's father is Rex, who abandoned her as a child to continue his life of crime. So it wouldn't have been out of character for him to do the same to old Oz. Now, while Oz responds with,
I ain't like him.
the Rex that Oz promotes to everyone is a very subjective take on Rex. In the comics, his nickname was the Lion, because he would scar people with lion teeth. So while Oz talks about how fantastic of a man he was, we know that there's another side to the story. When Vic asks Oz about what happened to his brothers, Oz says,
City took him, just like it took your family.
harkening back to Francis's quote earlier in the episode.
It takes everything from you.
While Oz isn't talking about the flood that killed Vic's family, he is talking about the evil in Gotham that has been and will forever be present. It doesn't matter if it's a flood, explosion, fire, or shooting, Gotham comes for everyone in the end. And then we get arguably the most heartbreaking line in this episode and the jumping board for why Oz is doing this.
I was too weak.
Oz is ashamed and even haunted by his disability. Oz has spent his whole life as the kid with the bum leg. The only thing he fears more than losing those he loves is the fear of being seen as that weak child again. And that is what kicked off this whole show. Alberto saw him as weak, and Oz lost it. His fear of being seen as vulnerable or weak has led to every bad decision he's made in his life. Oz treks back to the trolley yard with Vic. They're both literally and figuratively going deeper into the darkness of Gotham. Oz sparked the fire at the beginning of the episode, and now he's going into the depths of hell to claim his crown in the city. When Oz is walking in the tunnel, he pauses at the Gotham City water panel. Now, if you know anything about Batman, something is always up with the water supply. And Batman Begins, Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow plan to poison the city using the water supply from underneath Wayne Tower. This would be the fastest way to get the entire city addicted to the drug Bliss. Oz then turns the generator on for their new lair, and I can't help but be reminded of Batman Returns with the Penguin and his underground lair.
Penguin Man, the sewer.
Oz says,
Place. Calling me home.
and I think this is going to be good for Oz and company. While he's at both the lowest point in his story and in Gotham, there's only one way to go from here. up. Now, with their new base of operations, the episode closes out with St. Vincent's Reckless, a song about how it feels to be unmoored by grief. That ties into both of the episode's themes about the importance of family and new eras. Sal is now joining forces with Sophia, two crime gods haunted by grief but pushing forward to claim their empire, and Oz, who's coming right back home to face his ghost as he climbs up the ladder to the top. And guys, what an episode. It feels like all of the pieces are moving into their rightful places, and I cannot wait to see the fallout that comes from this all-out gang war. So let me know, what did you guys think of this episode? Do you think the Gigante Maroni alliance will last, or does Sophia have a few tricks up her sleeve? Let me know down in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter. And I also want to give a huge shout out to the writer of this video, Lee Mazzio. If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.